I figured since you were all trapped at home that you needed some light reading. So I grabbed one of my smaller books, and I just wanted to read from Hamlet today. Act 3, Scene 1. To be or not to be? That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles. And you know, I live by that. I take arms against a sea of troubles all the time. Let me tell you about a ski trip of mine. Worst day ever. Walk with me. So while we were going on our ski trip, what happened is I invited my in-laws. Now, some of you guys don't even know what in-laws are. It's when you get married to someone very special, and they have what's called parents, and they get to come and be a part of your life, and you get to be a part of their life. Well, I decided, hey, let's go on the ski journey together. And the problem with that is that I was kind of showing off and thinking, hey, this would be a great opportunity to basically say, hey, I'm a good, responsible husband. Your daughter married the right guy. Well, that's when everything went wrong. So we went on our ski trip, and we're basically going up the hill. And as we're going up the hill, you gotta follow me on this one. I had a 4x4 Subaru. Can't fail with those, right? So as we hit the first turn at the bottom of the hill, the car spins and goes into a 360 out of control spin. I got my father-in-law right next to me, I got my brother-in-law behind me, and I got my wife right behind me in the back seat, and I'm driving. At that point, we hit the edge of a cliff, and the car hangs up. Almost goes over. Yeah. Not bad. That's a good day. We didn't die. So, thinking about that, I realized this could be a problem. But I'm not a quitter. I take arms against a sea of troubles. And so what I did is I called the towing company, and the towing company came out 2.5 hours later, dragged me off of the embankment, off the edge of a precipice, because the four-wheel drive wouldn't engage. Because one wheel was in the air, and it basically sent all the energy to that one wheel, and the other stayed silent. There was no way out except for a tow truck. After we got pulled out, $290 later, I asked my father-in-law, I asked my brother-in-law, and I asked my wife, hey, we've come this far. Let's go up the hill. Why not? Because I take an arm against a sea of troubles. So we continue to go up the hill, and that wasn't the end of the story. It was the worst day of skiing ever. It was slushy, and my skis literally go a few feet and then stop, a few feet and stop. Nothing great about it. And then the storm came. It was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It was time to get off the hill, and we decided to drive down the hill. But one of the greatest storms hit Eastern Oregon where we were at that time. And what it did is it froze the entire hill solid. And this was the last ski day of the entire mountain. And they ran out of money to send sand in the sand truck all the way down. Okay? So as we're driving down the hill, I see a bunch of cars. They're skidded off the road. I slow down, and the car stops. And as I'm stopped, it slides into the embankment. Now I'm stuck again. We get out. My father-in-law gets out. He looks at me. He's now questioning his daughter's judgment in men, as you can see. My brother-in-law is saying, this cannot be happening, but it was. And my wife goes, it's okay, honey. I still love you. So we got out, we got the skis, and we started digging to get our way out. Up the road, though, there was a 4x4 pickup. And you know, people with 4x4 pickups, they can do anything on ice, right? Especially skid out of control. The guy comes flying, sees our car stuck, slams on the brakes. Don't do that. And the thing starts skidding sideways. My wife and brother-in-law are standing between the bumper of the car and this truck coming sideways at them. True story. What do you think happened? Well, they both started running like Scooby-Doo, going nowhere, until my wife, in superhuman strength, grabbed her brother, threw him into the embankment, and rode him into safety. True that. The truck slammed into the back of the car and crumpled us into the entire hillside. But you know what? I didn't quit. None of us did, because we take an arm against a sea of troubles. I get out of the way. I had dived into it. I'm checking on everybody, making sure everybody's okay. I go to the driver. The driver says, I'm not giving you my insurance. But hey, I'm a government teacher. I know the law. I whip out my cell phone and I say, no problem. Click, and let me get a picture of your license plate. Click, and now if you just leave without giving me your insurance, you're going to be reported for leaving a hit and run scene. So I got the man's insurance, and he went on his way begrudgingly. So we proceeded down the hill. A 30-minute drive took 3.5 hours. Yes. But that's not the end of the story. The end of the story isn't yet. What happened was, as we were driving down the road, I got passed by another four-wheel drive truck with a trailer of snowmobiles on it, going about 50 miles an hour down the sheer ice. And I looked at my father-in-law, he looked at me, my wife, and my brother-in-law. We all said, that guy's gonna get hurt. And you know what? He didn't, but his snowmobiles did. They were in a tree over another ravine, and his truck was down another ravine. He spun out of control, separated, everything went flying. This was no storm to be made fun of. This was the worst sea of troubles I'd ever seen. So far, we'd been off the road, almost died. Went up, had the worst day of skiing. Came down, almost had my wife and brother-in-law legs chopped off between the bumper of another car. And so we continued to drive down the road. 3.5 hours later, there was one area that was sheer ice. We had to sled it down with the car because the car was just sliding. Lean this way, lean that way, and the car slowly made it down the hill by sledding. So we're like, whew. As I peeled each one of the fingers off of the steering wheel, and I sat back and I said, okay, we're safe. We can get to a gas station, because I was almost out of gas because we'd been up there idling so long. So I get to a gas station and I open up my car door, and this is where it gets worse. As soon as my car door opened, I hear a twing, and it was just a little piece of chrome metal between the window and the door inside. You know, that little piece that's trim is for beauty. It's also to help keep the sound down for road noise. Well, that metal popped out just 1/4 inch, so I couldn't close the door. Hey, arm against a sea of troubles, right? So what did I do? I took out my Gerber, which is kind of like a Leatherman, and I stood outside. I'm at the gas pump. I got the gas pump pumping, and I'm taking my little Gerber, which is that like a Leatherman, and I'm just tapping it back in place. Tap, 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 tap. And finally, that metal piece went back in play, and I'm looking at it confidently. My father-in-law is looking at me going, I can't believe this. My brother-in-law goes, this trip is awful. My wife is going, very supportive, by the way, it's okay, honey. I still love you. I still love you. And that's when it happened. The driver's side window exploded in my face. Glass shards hit my nose, cut my nose open, and blood is running down my face. My father-in-law is sitting in the chair, aghast. My brother-in-law is texting all his friends saying, I'm trapped in the worst nightmare ever. My wife is no longer saying, it's okay, honey. She's now saying, what is going on? And as I stood there with blood gushing down my nose, I lifted my face to the heavens and I laughed, because it couldn't get any worse than that. And that is taking an arm against a sea of troubles. But that's not the end of the story. What do? The window is blown out. I got a gash on my nose. My father-in-law thinks his son-in-law is a curse. My brother-in-law thinks I'm the funniest guy that ever lived. And my wife, oh, my poor wife. So what do? We went to a place of salvation, Walmart. And we bought plastic, and I created a new window out of plastic. Can you believe that? And I started to drive down the freeway in the worst snowstorm ever with a plastic window that I couldn't see out of. Banging, banging, banging. My father-in-law had his own car that he brought. He only commuted with us up the hill in his car. My father-in-law, I never seen him drive so fast in my life away from us. He ditched us on the freeway. Not because he hated me, but I think he was trying to find a place that was safer than being near me. And I kind of went, maybe he's right. Maybe this arm against a sea of troubles isn't worth it. But I looked at my wife and I said, this story is epic and it is so worth it. And I will take an arm against a sea of troubles any day just so I could have a story like that to tell. And so we got home and I got on the phone and I called my insurance agent. For my auto insurance, I've paid for full coverage. And so I said, hey, I have to report a tow out. They said, that's great. I said, but don't hang up. I have another claim to make. I was hit by a car. And the guy goes, okay, got that. But wait. I have a driver's side window that exploded in my face. At that point, my insurance agent laughed over the phone at me. It wasn't that he didn't believe me. He said that in his years of history, he has never heard a story so fantastic in his life. And that I was approved for every payment that I claimed. Why? Because that story is epic. There's not one lie in it, it's all truth. So I challenge you guys today, thinking of your problems, thinking that you guys are stuck inside in an empty building, kind of like I am, as you saw all the empty rooms before you. I challenge you guys, what is your worst day? What is that day that you saw a sea and picked up an arm to beat a sea of troubles? When did you do that? And if you have done it, share it here. And if you hadn't, I hope you're inspired to find your epic story, to challenge yourself not to quit, and to always take up an arm against a sea of troubles. So come with me. This is what online school looks like. Pretty empty. But it's not over, because the hard deadline that was due today has been extended into the break. Come with me. This is where you should be right now. You should be out here. Not in there. This is where you guys get the adventures. This is where you guys get the feeling of life. And your televisions, your news, your media, it's scaring everybody. But what you guys need to do is take up an arm against a sea of troubles. So leave your comments below. Let me know what you guys are going through. Let's hear what you have to say. Because you know what? We care about you guys. Because we wouldn't be here if we didn't. So, thanks you guys.